everybody. This is a special episode of one of my lectures because I am not in my normal TV studio. I am actually at the state golf tournament that we're playing in Heston, Kansas. So the audio quality, the video quality, hopefully this is going to work. Hopefully you'll get something out of it. But this is a unique situation, so I'll be back to my regular studio soon. But for the time being, we make do with what we have. So today's topic, what we want to tell you about is measuring public opinion. And when you guys come into class every day and I put up those polls and say, you know, this person's up by 10 points, this person's down by 3 points or whatever, that's what we're talking about here. How do they get those numbers, okay? And there is some math involved with this. Not gonna make you do math, but there is math involved. So hopefully this will clear up some of the question about where that data comes from. Let's start by just defining public opinion, okay? Because that's what they're measuring. Here's the boring textbook definition: the aggregate of individual attitudes or beliefs that people share. So if you want to put that another way, it's what people think or feel about certain things. Very simple. Another way to look at that is, you know, what people feel, but also what politicians should probably be thinking about. Because if you want to get reelected, you pretty much have to respond to what the people think about these things. So what government finds it prudent to heed would be good. So let me give you some examples of measuring public opinion. Okay, a couple of terms I need you to know. Consensus opinion and divisive opinion. So if we take, for example, a question, do you approve or disapprove of the way George W. Bush is handling his job as president? Over here, this is a consensus opinion. You have 90% of the people approving, while only 6% disapprove. So a consensus means that most people agree on something, right? Now this one would be an example of a divisive opinion. Do you approve or disapprove of the way George W. Bush is doing his job? Same question, only here we see disapprove 59%, approve 37%. So it's divided, right? That's where the word divisive comes from. You know, when we look at these numbers, this is, you know, with consensus and with divisive, those are the two terms you need to know. But if you're really looking at polls, the one we see the most is going to be this one, right? It's rare that we get a consensus opinion on anything. This is actually the norm. Now, if you're looking at this and wondering, well, you know, what's the difference? Check out the dates, right? This poll was taken in September of 2001, right after 9/11. 90% approval rating. Most people in the country, it was consensus that George W. Bush did a great job handling 9/11. While as this divisive opinion was done in July of 2006, right about the time the recession was beginning and we'd gotten mired down in Iraq. So, you know, you can see how things will change. Same question, same president, but what was going on really dictates how people feel about that. Another example here would be Americans' perception of world respect. So this poll was done asking Americans, what do you think, how do you think other countries see us? And the last three presidents are the ones we're going to look at. George W. Bush in 2001, and all of these, by the way, were in their the beginning of their presidency. George W. Bush, 49%, thought that the world said that, yeah, we're respected. Obama, it was 67%, but with President Trump, it's only 29%. With a 67%, Americans thinking that the world does not respect us very much. So again, looking at these, and I'm not saying that, you know, this is anything negative about Trump. Taking a political science class, what you have to think about is like, if I'm the Republican Party at this point, does that worry me? And the answer is yes. So, and if I'm a Democrat here with Barack Obama, should this worry me? Yes, it should, because that number is totally askew with normality, right? With what it normally is. So when you see numbers this far out of the ordinary, something's odd, something's off about that. So, and we'll talk more about that later, but those are the two things. You know, anytime you have an outlier like that, you kind of have to worry. So let's take a look at another one. This is changes in satisfaction with U.S. societal aspects. So in other words, are you satisfied or are you unsatisfied? And I don't know if you can see the questions here. The overall quality of life, and this compares 2001 to 2019 last year. So in 2001, the overall quality of life, 89% of Americans said that they were satisfied, and only 77% in 2019 said they were satisfied. So it dropped, overall satisfaction of life. The opportunity for a person to get ahead by working hard, in 2001, 76% said yes, absolutely satisfied, but by 2019, it was down to 65. And you can see these questions. Influence of organized religions, the size and power of the federal government. Almost all of these categories from 2001 to 2019, they went down. So what does that mean? Well, what that means is if I'm a politician, I'm figuring out why this is happening. Because if I'm running for re-election and I can provide a solution for some of this, I'm going to get reelected. That's kind of what they're supposed to do. Look at what the people are saying, look at how the people feel, and then make good policy around that. I don't know if we've had that recently. Probably the last 20, 30 years, government really has taken a nosedive in public opinion. But anyway, we'll talk more about that later as well. So how do you measure this stuff? How do they get these numbers? So I'm going to walk you through kind of, what it takes, and I'm going to start with the different kinds of polls that are out there. And when we talk about polls, the umbrella term that we are talking about are called opinion polls, right? We don't know what people's opinion are about stuff, but there are several types of opinion polls. The first one that I want to tell you about is a straw poll. Now, of the types of polls that we're going to talk about, this is the one I want you to pay the least attention to because it doesn't really measure anything. They're fun to look at, they're fun to see the results, but a straw poll is nothing than just like asking the people in the room, kind of what they think. And so we look at these, it's this informal opinion poll, it's unofficial, unscientific, and basically it would be if I were to ask the people in the classroom, what's the best lunch ever? And let's say, just a couple more than half said pizza, right? Pizza's the best lunch ever. Now, can I extrapolate that out to the entire school or the entire United States? Would that still be the case? Probably not. You can't do that because it was just the people in this classroom. So that's kind of what straw polls are. They just kind of, they take the temperature of the room. It basically is what it is. One of my favorite ones was the 1936. Literary Digest did a poll. Alf Landon was the Republican running for president against FDR. And they polled their readers and said, who do you think is going to win the election? Overwhelmingly, their readers said Alf Landon, okay? And if you remember anything from history, in 1936, FDR kind of won by a landslide. So why were they so wrong? Why was Literary Digest so wrong in that prediction? Well, the reason is because they only polled their readers, right? Literary Digest is a conservative-leaning magazine. And since those are the ones that bought the magazine, of course they're going to think the Republican is going to win. They were wrong. It was a landslide. So you have to be careful, who it is you're asking. And that's why that's a straw poll. One of my all-time favorites, though, Iowa. And Iowa is a fun state to make fun of anyway. You'll hear a lot of jokes about Iowa. But they have at the state fair, the Iowa State Fair, every 4 years during the primary season, they will have a straw poll. Who do you think is going to get the nomination? So in this last one, with a couple summers ago, when the primary in the Democratic Party was going on, you had Biden and Harris and Warren and Yang and all the Bernie, running all at the same time trying to get the nomination. Now we know Biden ends up getting the nomination, but the Iowa straw poll, Andrew Yang won. So how come he didn't do better in the actual election? Because it was at the state fair in Iowa, and the only people that had an opportunity to answer the question, who would you like to vote for, were the people at the state fair. So, right, so you can't take a straw poll and extrapolate it out to anything. But they're fun to look at. It's kind of fun to take a look, see who they think is going to win, and all these things. The other type of poll that I want to talk about real quick here is the tracking poll, because these are the ones that we look at in class. And a tracking poll, basically, they ask the same question every day over time, and get the public's response to this. Now, this is not an election one. Okay, I grabbed this poll, and this goes back to last week. And this is favorability ratings, right? Not who you're going to vote for, but how do you feel about the person, right? And so in this case, and right here, I don't know if you can see on camera, this is the 0 line right here. Right? So anything below the 0 line means unfavorable, above the line is favorable. And what we see is for most of the last, goes back to last year, most of the time, Biden and Trump have been below 0, which means their negative ratings, right, were greater than the positive ratings. Just recently, though, Biden has gone up above the line, but Trump has been underwater his entire presidency. But that's favorability, not who's going to win, right? But that's a tracking poll. It's kind of how you keep track of what's going on. Another tracking poll, and this has to do with healthcare. Does the government should the government make sure that all Americans have healthcare coverage as a percent? And this goes back to the year 2000. In 2000, 64% of the people thought that, yes, it is the government's responsibility to make sure people have health care or health insurance. Only 31% said no. But what you can see here is a dramatic shift right around 2008, 2009, and it was below water it has started to creep back up. So the question becomes, if you're talking about healthcare coverage, what happened here to cause that collapse in people saying it's the government's responsibility? That was Obamacare, right? And the thing about the Affordable Care Act, guys, the Affordable Care Act was born in a conservative think tank. And we'll talk more about it, but essentially what they were saying is you need to have insurance. If you don't have insurance, then you're a burden on the system. So for example, if I don't have insurance and I get sick, well, I'm not gonna go to the doctor because I can't pay for it. So I'm just gonna get sicker and sicker and sicker until they have to take me to the emergency room where it's very expensive to get health care. And since I don't have insurance and I don't have any money to pay for it, who ends up paying for that? Well, it's everybody else that has insurance, right? So if you have insurance and you go to the doctor and you pay your bills and everything's fine, people that don't have health insurance are a burden on you, right? So the idea of the Affordable Care Act, later called Obamacare, was that make those people get insurance. You can see why that might be a conservative idea. Force those people to get insurance. That way they're not a burden on the healthcare costs. The problem is most of those people can't afford it. That's why they don't have it. So what do you do? So what the Affordable Care Act did says is let's put people in a pool. So there's strength in numbers. So insurance companies, you can join this, what they call the exchange. And it's cheaper insurance that you can get because the insurance companies are willing to offer it for a cheaper price because there's so many in the pool. It's kind of like Shawnee Mission, right? I teach in Shawnee Mission School District. Well, we negotiate with the various healthcare companies. Right now we have Blue Cross and Blue Shield. And essentially what they said was, look how many teachers are in Shawnee Mission, right? To Blue Cross and Blue Shield. This is guaranteed. Look at all these people that you're gonna get. Give us a lower price and you'll make up for it in numbers. Same principle with people that can't afford health insurance. As a pool, right? Look at all the numbers. You're gonna make money. Offer it for cheaper so they can afford it, and you're still gonna make money. And that was the idea behind it. Obviously, though, when they tacked the name Obamacare on it, obviously conservatives can't go for it, even though most people don't know what it is. And the fact that it was a conservative idea. So, but now it's kind of creeping back up. So we're gonna see, with COVID, what's gonna happen to healthcare. And this is another one, do you view the law favorably? And this one cracks me up, right? Because of the question, okay? And this goes through, do you view the Affordable Care Act mostly favorable or unfavorable? And you see the favorable line, the blue, okay? This was last month. 49% said that they had a favorable opinion of it, and 42% said they had an unfavorable opinion of it. Now, when this question is asked like this, you have more people that have a favorable opinion of it than don't know. Here's the kicker. If you change the Affordable Care Act in the question to Obamacare, these numbers are completely different, right? When you tack the word Obamacare on, people hate it. But when you say the Affordable Care Act, they're like, yeah, that's okay. And guys, and that's what's going on right now. They have no idea what it is, right? They just know what people are telling them about it. So my advice to you, think for yourself, number one. Figure it out, do the research, and make up your own mind. Quit listening to the media. And I just thought that was hilarious. So if you change the name of it, same program, same everything, people have no idea, right? Do your own research and figure this out. Now, so that's an opinion or a tracking poll. This is an exit poll. Exit polls are very, very important, and most people have no idea what these are. An exit poll basically is when you vote. Okay, so all these people, on election day, they go and vote, they pull a lever and do all this stuff. And they pick just various places at random all around the country, and they're going to ask these people questions. Maybe, for example, every 10th person that comes out, they're going to ask them questions. And the questions are going to be, obviously, who did you vote for? They're going to say, what is your socioeconomic status? So how much money do you make? They're going to get race. They're going to get gender. Obviously where you live. And basically what they're trying to find out is why you voted the way you voted. Now we have to be careful because if you start looking at the East Coast, right, they're 4 hours ahead of California and Washington and Oregon, and Washington. And if you start predicting who's going to win at 7 o'clock p.m. on the East Coast, that could affect how people vote on the West Coast. Because if they're calling it for your person, your guy, hey, my guy's winning, I don't need to vote. Oops, could change it. Or, hey, my guy's losing, East Coast, there's no point in me voting. Could change the outcome. So we have to be very careful. But the information that they get out of this, obviously in the 2016 election, this question was about Clinton's use of a private email server. Does it bother you? All right, and 62%, yeah, it bothered. I mean, if you think about what turned that election, because it was so close in 2016, the email thing was a big deal with that. So that kind of possibly changed the outcome of the election. Here's the other thing. Here's what I want you to focus on right here. And we get these numbers from exit polling, right? In 2016, actually, let's go back to 2012. In 2012, you see African Americans voted 93% for Obama. But in 16, only 88% of the African American vote voted for Hillary. 71% of Latinos went down to 65%. 60% of young people went down to 54%. So this is why exit polling is so important to politicians, because why did this happen? And sometimes you have to have a come to Jesus meeting and say, what did we do wrong? And that's kind of what's been going on. And likewise, same with Republicans. That's why all this exit poll information is very, very valuable. Could be you lost suburban women. That's kind of the big one this year. We lost, the high income earners. Why did they switch? So exit polls, they give us good information. Now, the math. How does all this work? How do we get to it? Well, what you want to do is you're just going to be asking a small number of people. You can take a sample, okay? Some things that are very important. You want to be able to extrapolate that out to the country as a whole if it's a national poll. So how do you do that? Well, obviously there are people you don't want to ask. You're not going to ask people in college. You guys, you're busy doing other stuff. Obviously people in prison, soldiers, they got stuff going on. People in hospitals, you don't want to bother them. So there are some people that are eliminated from this polling data. But basically what you want to do, I'm going to give you the key words here. When you do this, and I want you to write this down, star it, underline it, the word you're looking for is random, okay? Random. It has to be a random sample. In other words, everybody has to be eligible to have been contacted. That's why the Iowa State Fair poll, the straw poll, they only ask people at the fair. So you can't say that's a national poll. If I poll you guys in the classroom, it's not a school-wide poll because not everybody had a chance. If you're talking about the ability to come up with a good number here, it must be random. You can't say, well, since 50% of the people in the United States are women, we have to have 50% of our respondents be women. No, that's not random. It's not going to be a valid poll, okay? And I know it's weird, but it has to be, everybody has to have an equal chance to have answered the question. And if you do that, and you get it down to plus or minus 3%, right, as your margin of error is another good vocab term, that's pretty good, right? So for example, if your answer, if the number you come up with is, 56% of people think this. Well, if it's plus or minus 3%, it might be 59%, and it might be 53%. But 3%, plus or minus 3%, is actually kind of what you want to do now. How many people do you have to ask to get a random sample? How many people are enough that we can extrapolate it out to get to within plus or minus 3%? And this shocked me the first time I started studying this. Believe it or not, for populations over 500,000, which the United States is, you have to make at least 15,000 phone calls to reach just over 1,000 people. If you hit that, I mean, think about that. 15,000 phone calls, only 1,000 people have to respond to get you within plus or minus 3%. That doesn't seem like a whole lot of people, but it's true, right? So, and because we've been doing this for years, data is dead on. So these are the numbers. It's not a whole lot of people as long as it's random, okay? That's the key point. So if we go back to 2016, how accurate were the polls, right? Because we know, they said Hillary Clinton had a 71% chance of winning. Donald Trump had a 28% chance of winning. And they had Clinton, okay, this is that Real Clear Politics average, right? Clinton was up 2.1%. How accurate were the polls? Guys, they were dead on. They were dead on. This is a national poll, right? Clinton won the popular vote by about 1%. This number was off by just 1%. She won the popular vote. This right here, she lost the Electoral College. And some people say, well, but those numbers are way off. No, they're not. And here's why. He had a 28% chance of winning. That's still a chance. That's a good chance, right? 1 in 4 chance. I'll take it, right? And he ended up winning. This number was right, and this number was right. Still had a chance. She won, and they missed it by 1%. So it's kind of interesting. So what are they going to do in 2020? I can't wait for Election Day, which, by the way, by the time you guys are watching this video, what's it going to be, 11 days away, something like that, 11, 12 days? So we'll see how accurate the plan was. Now, there are some problems, and I'm going to finish up with the problems that we have in polling data. Because, you have phone calls, believe it or not, when you ask people questions, sometimes they might lie, right? I remember when in 2016, I had some people on the left that didn't really want to say they were going to vote for Hillary Clinton because she was so unpopular with people. So they might lie. This election cycle, I'm down here in Heston with the girls' golf team getting ready to play state. My friends in Wichita, conservatives, sometimes they don't want to say they're going to vote for Trump because they're going to get shouted down by people. So some people might lie simply because they don't want to let people know kind of who they're supporting. Obviously, cell phones become an issue. It used to be you called landlines. Nobody has landlines anymore. So we're going to have to deal with this as pollsters. How do we figure out cell phones, unlisted numbers on landlines? It's going to have to change. So that's a problem as well. Polling fatigue. I love to make fun of Iowa. My wife's family's from Iowa. My mother-in-law from Iowa, and she just stops answering the phone during election season because every day, call after call after call, it's people taking a poll. She doesn't even answer the phone. So that becomes a problem. You don't want people, having polling fatigue and not answering the phone. And then we have this thing called the bandwagon effect. And the problem with this is sometimes the polling numbers can influence how you vote. Because I think subconsciously people want to vote for a winner. So if they're looking at these polls and they're undecided and they see Biden up by 10, they're like, I'm going to vote for a winner, so I'm going to vote for Biden. That could negatively affect they should do their own research and kind of look. And then if they want to vote for Biden, that's fine. But they might end up wanting to vote for Trump. So sometimes the polls, people jump on the bandwagon of whoever's winning because they just want to win. So what we have with polls is, and what we figured out is with the data, who you're going to vote for or not. Bottom line, people are uninformed. And that's probably the big takeaway from all this polling data. Young people more so than others. We need to start paying attention. Obviously, it's very important now. You've got COVID, you've got healthcare issues, you got you got wildfires, you got world problems overseas. We do need to be informed so we can make good decisions. Now, the last thing, and this is what bothers me about polling data the most, and that is a push poll, because you can word the question to elicit a specific response. You want the response, word the question that's going to give you that response, and I have some examples here. The wording is very, very important. So if you are taking a presidential poll, do you list the vice president on that poll? For example, right now, it's if it's a Republican pollster and they're wanting data, are you more or less likely to vote for Donald Trump and Mike Pence, right? Because you want to add Mike Pence to that ticket, because right now Donald Trump is the one that's unpopular, right? His style, turns a lot of people off. But by adding Mike Pence to the question, gives us some validity, right? He's well respected, he's well read, he's calm, and so you want to add the vice president in that case. In 2006 or in 2012, I remember, in 2000, or when John McCain was running, I guess it was 2008, when John McCain was running and had Sarah Palin on the ticket, they never included Sarah Palin, right, in 2008, because her unfavorability was higher than her favorability. So they would just say John McCain, not John McCain and Sarah Palin. Saturday Night Live was having a field day with her. Funny stuff. Tina Fey, just dead on Sarah Palin. So it kind of, asks that. Another problem that we have is the wording, right? If you're taking a poll, are food stamps welfare or are they programs for the poor? Welfare has a very negative connotation, right? Welfare, I don't want to pay for welfare. People need to, get a job. But if you're helping the poor, that's a completely different mindset, right? Same thing, right? It's just how you word it. Likewise, is abortion the dilation and extraction of a fetus, or is it murdering a baby, right? Murdering, I don't want to murder anything. It will matter how you word it. Now, oftentimes they'll do these polls and they'll kind of try to trip you up. And this was back in 2012. Barack Obama has taken, 2008. Barack Obama has taken millions of dollars from big banking, right, and energy interests that have legislation before the Senate. So he's taking all this money. Does that affect how you feel about him? I mean, come on. The wording of that is going to elicit the response of, well, I don't like that, so no, I don't like Barack Obama. And that's a push poll, right? They're pushing you to make, to get the answer that they want. Now, my all-time favorite push poll, and I'm going to end with this one. All-time favorite. We go back to the year 2000, okay? And in the year 2000, in the Republican primary, the two contenders at that point were John McCain and George W. Bush. Now in 2000, we know George W. Bush is going to end up winning the primary and end up winning the general and becoming president of the United States. But during that primary season, it got ugly. John McCain was on the Straight Talk Express. He was leading in the polls, and George W. Bush had to do something. So the fourth primary that year, I believe it was the fourth, was in South Carolina. So they did a poll in South Carolina. The George W. Bush campaign did. And they used a push poll. They used the wording of a question. And this is awesome because this was the question in South Carolina. Right? Would you be more likely or less likely to vote for John McCain for president if you knew that he had fathered an illegitimate black child? That was the question in South Carolina, right? And that was from the Bush campaign in 2000. Now, look at it, right? Would you be more or less likely to vote for John McCain? They didn't say he did father it, just said, what if he did? Would that affect your decision? Well, I mean, come on. Now, here's the kicker. In the ads that they were running in South Carolina, it showed John McCain holding a black child in the ad. And here, check this out. The black child was his son. What? Are you kidding me? Was it illegitimate? No, guys, no, that's not what happened. A couple years before that, a hurricane went through Haiti and just wiped out the entire island. John McCain and his wife adopted a child that was an orphan after the hurricane. They adopted him. And so there's this picture, John McCain's son. And they throw this question out in South Carolina. Would you be more likely to vote for John McCain if you knew he had fathered an illegitimate black child? Unbelievable. All-time favorite push poll question. Terrible, by the way. But it just goes to show you can get responses just by how you word the question. Okay, so hopefully this was entertaining in this makeshift studio down here. I'll be back to my normal studio next week, so hopefully you got something out of this. Obviously, you guys know my email. You can shoot me questions. Anything that's not clear, we'll have an activity based on this. But for now, hopefully that worked, and I want you guys to have a good rest of your day, and we'll talk to you later.